A dog's sharp bark broke the stillness of the suburban night. Laura Bennett froze by her front gate, her groceries rolling into the gutter. The hum of streetlights buzzed above, but something darker pulsed beneath the calm. She whispered, "Michael's light is still on. He never stays up this late." Her heart thudded louder than the crickets. The faint metallic scent in the air clawed at her senses. The door to her neighbor's house stood ajar, creaking softly in the wind. She stepped closer, her shoes brushing over scattered mail. "Mr. Cole!" she called, voice trembling. Inside, shadows danced across pale walls. And then her breath hitched. Blood glistened on the kitchen tiles under the flicker of the ceiling lamp. A phone buzzed on the counter, unanswered. Something shifted behind the doorway, a slow drag across the floor. Laura's hand shook as she reached for her phone, whispering, "Oh my God! Someone's still here!" Detective Michael Harris arrived minutes later, sirens slicing the calm. Red light flashed across wet pavement like warning signals from another world. He ducked under the tape, muttering, "Don't touch anything." Laura's voice cracked. "I just found him like this." He crouched beside the body, eyes scanning every inch of the floor. The blood pattern was deliberate, too precise for chaos. He spotted a folded paper under Michael Cole's hand. Inside, 2 words, "Not finished." His jaw tightened. Outside, an engine started in the distance. The sound didn't fade. It lingered like someone waiting. Harris looked up at the window, breath sharp. "We're not alone," he whispered, reaching for his gun. The forensic team filled the house with the mechanical clicks of cameras. Harris stood still, scanning the room as if the walls were whispering secrets. "Someone wanted this message to be seen," he said. Laura leaned against the frame, pale and silent. "He said someone was following him," she murmured. The detective's jaw tightened as he noted each blood mark, every calculated placement. A young officer approached with a plaster cast. "Found footprints out back," he said. Harris crouched, studying the size, the direction. "They're old," he muttered. "Whoever came back tonight, cleaned up." The realization chilled him. Nothing about this scene felt random anymore. Rain drummed softly as Harris stepped outside. The smell of wet asphalt mixed with tobacco smoke. "This wasn't random," he murmured. Laura joined him under the porch light, her arms crossed tight. "You think whoever did this knew him?" she asked. "Knew him, and wanted to send a message," he said. His phone vibrated. The caller ID was blank. He hesitated, letting it ring once before silence returned. The night stretched long and heavy. "Lock your doors," Harris said quietly, turning toward the street. A single car idled at the far corner, headlights dim, watching. Hours later, silence reclaimed the neighborhood. Police tape fluttered weakly in the breeze. Harris sat alone in his sedan, crime photos spread across the passenger seat. His eyes fixed on the note's jagged handwriting. "Not finished." He leaned back, fatigue pressing against his temples. The radio hissed, then crackled. "Another call, 2 blocks north." His pulse spiked. "Same street?" he asked. "Same pattern," came the reply. His hand tightened on the wheel. Engine roared to life, headlights cutting through fog. The night wasn't over. Somewhere nearby, the plot was still moving. Unseen, deliberate, waiting to strike again. Rain hammered the windshield as Detective Michael Harris sped toward the new crime scene. The police radio screamed with static, then a trembling voice cut through. "Same signature, detective." He slammed the brakes outside a dim alleyway. Steam rose from drains. Red and blue lights pulsed across brick walls. Laura Bennett stood under an umbrella, soaked and trembling. "You said it couldn't happen again," she said. Harris replied, "It's never random twice." The smell of copper filled the air. He crouched by the second victim's body. Same precision, same folded paper. The note read, "Still watching." Harris felt the street watching him back. Somewhere behind the flashing lights, a camera shutter clicked. Too slow to be police. He turned sharply, gun half drawn. No one was there, but he knew now. This killer wasn't hiding anymore. He was performing. Dawn crept through gray clouds. Harris sat in the precinct's quiet office. Papers spread like scars across his desk. The smell of coffee and exhaustion mixed in the air. Laura entered softly, carrying a file. "You haven't slept," she said. He didn't look up. "Sleep's a luxury," he muttered. She slid a photo across the desk. Michael Cole and the new victim, smiling at a company event. They worked together. His pulse quickened. "Then this isn't just murder," he said. "It's cleanup." Laura lowered her voice. "What if someone inside the company knew?" The fluorescent lights flickered once, the hum deepening the tension. Harris leaned back, connecting dots in silence. "Then whoever's pulling strings," he said, "isn't done cutting." He turned the photo over, staring at the corporate logo. It felt less like evidence, more like a warning. That afternoon, Harris drove to ColeTech Industries, the victim's workplace. Security guards exchanged nervous glances. The lobby gleamed, too clean, too polished. "Detective Harris, right?" said Ethan Cole. "The CEO's brother." His handshake was cold, rehearsed. "Terrible tragedy," Ethan said, smiling too easily. "We'll cooperate." Harris noticed the man's cufflinks. Same pattern etched on both victims' notes. "Mind if I look around?" Harris asked. "Be my guest," Ethan replied, tone clipped. The security cameras above hummed faintly, all turning in sync. Harris's instinct screamed, "You already know what I'll find, don't you?" Ethan's smile stiffened. "Detective, some truths don't need uncovering." The words hung heavy. Harris walked away, pretending calm, but his pulse drummed. Behind him, Ethan's voice drifted softly, almost playful. "You'll wish you'd stopped at the first body." The city lights shimmered against puddles as Harris met Chief Reynolds at an empty diner. The hum of a flickering sign filled the silence. "You were chasing ghosts, Harris," the chief said. "ColeTech's untouchable." Harris leaned forward. "Then why are they burying bodies with their name written on them?" The chief sighed, lowering his voice. "You think this is the first time? We've had similar cases, quietly closed." Harris froze. "You covered them up." The older man's eyes darkened. "I followed orders." He slid a folder across the counter. "You want the truth? It'll end you." Harris glanced at Laura's name in the notes. "Classified witness." His jaw clenched. The chief added, "She's not who you think she is." The coffee cup between them rattled slightly from a passing train. For the first time, Harris felt like the floor beneath him wasn't solid anymore. Back in his car, Harris flipped through the file. Photos of Laura were inside, meeting Michael Cole weeks before his death. "Why didn't she tell me?" he whispered. Outside, rain smeared the windshield like fading memory. The city blurred into streaks of gold and gray. He started the engine. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Stop digging or she dies." His breath hitched, eyes wide. He accelerated, tires screeching. Every instinct screamed to call for backup, but he didn't. Trust was gone. The only sound was the wiper's rhythm and his heartbeat merging with it. He whispered to himself, "They're watching both of us." Ahead, the red taillights of a black sedan blinked once, then turned down a side road. He followed, decision made. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. It was war. The storm finally broke, leaving the city washed and strangely quiet. Detective Michael Harris sat across from Laura Bennett in a corner cafe, the first calm they'd shared in days. Steam rose from untouched coffee cups. "You look tired," she said softly. He forced a smile. "I stopped counting hours." The warm light made the chaos of the last week seem distant, almost unreal. Outside, people moved normally again. Inside, something didn't fit. Laura's eyes kept flicking toward the door, her phone screen lighting up twice, each time she turned it face down. "Someone's been calling you," Harris said. "Just work," she replied too fast. He felt it, a thin crack beneath the surface. The hum of the espresso machine filled the silence, masking tension neither could name. For the first time, he didn't feel safe beside her. Later that night, they worked side by side in the evidence room. Paper and photographs spread across the metal table. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, too bright, too sterile. "You were right," Harris said quietly. "The files point to internal sabotage." Laura smiled faintly. "You don't say that often." For a moment, the walls between them thinned. "You've lost people before," she whispered. He nodded. "Everyone in this job does." Her hand brushed his, a moment of shared exhaustion and understanding. But then she pulled away, eyes darting to the camera in the corner. "You think we're being watched?" he asked. She hesitated, voice barely audible. "We always are." He froze. Something in her tone didn't sound afraid, it sounded complicit. The overhead light flickered, breaking the illusion of trust. The next morning, Harris confronted Chief Reynolds in his office. "You knew Laura's connection to ColeTech." The chief didn't deny it. "She was our mole," he said flatly. Harris felt heat rise in his chest. "You used me." Reynolds leaned back. "She volunteered. Said she could get close to you faster than any badge." The words landed like blows. "She lied to me," Harris said. "No," Reynolds corrected. "She saved you." Files on the desk detailed every move Laura had made. Every conversation had been logged. Harris' breath came slow, shallow. "If this is protection," he said, "why do I feel hunted?" The chief's expression hardened. "Because you're getting close to something that was never meant to be solved." Silence thickened between them, cold and final. Harris walked out, the truth trailing behind him like a wound. That night, Harris tracked Laura's phone to an abandoned warehouse near the river. The air reeked of rust and rain. His flashlight beam cut through dust and shadows. "Laura?" he called. Her voice came from the dark. "You shouldn't be here." She stepped into the light, eyes glassy, gun trembling in her hand. "They made me do it," she whispered. "They have my brother." Harris lowered his weapon. "Then we fix it together." She shook her head, tears falling. "You don't understand. They're here." Before he could react, a red laser dot crawled up his chest. A shot rang out, loud, final. She screamed as he fell, blood spreading across concrete. Footsteps receded into the dark, followed by a door slamming. The sound echoed like betrayal itself, sharp and hollow. Rain pounded the tin roof above as Harris lay half-conscious. The wound burned, but he could still hear voices fading away. "Leave him," one said. "He's finished." The sound of a car starting echoed faintly. He dragged himself toward the beam of his fallen flashlight. Laura was gone. The note she dropped lay beside him. 3 words. "They own everything." He stared at it through blurring vision. Rage steadied him where strength failed. He pressed his palm against the bleeding wound, forcing himself upright. "Not yet," he murmured. Outside, the storm blurred city lights into streaks of fire and glass. Something in him had broken, and something new had awakened. He wasn't chasing justice anymore. He was chasing truth, no matter who it destroyed next. The world sounded hollow. Detective Michael Harris woke in a hospital room lit by the gray wash of dawn. Machines beeped quietly. His side burned, stitched and wrapped. He tried to sit up, wincing. The city outside was moving again, indifferent. A nurse whispered, "You're lucky to be alive." He only nodded. staring at the faint reflection in the window. His badge lay on the table. Crack. Laura, he said softly, the name carrying both ache and disbelief. Memories bled into one another. The shot, her eyes, the fear that wasn't for him. He reached for the folded note from his pocket. They own everything. The words pulsed like a heartbeat, he whispered. Everything, realizing for the first time it didn't just mean ColeTech. It meant them all. He exhaled slowly, the silence breaking with the truth still forming. He closed his eyes and the past unfolded like film reels burning in reverse. The first body, the false smiles, Laura's shaking hands. In the flashback, Michael Cole's laughter echoed inside the ColeTech offices. "We're too deep now," he'd told Ethan. The air had smelled of ink and metal, cold industry. The same logo, embossed on every envelope, found at the crime scenes. Harris' voice overlapped memory. "It wasn't greed," he whispered. "It was silence they sold." The vision flickered, Laura handing over a flash drive, fear in her eyes. "This will expose them," she'd said. Then Ethan's voice, "or expose you." The memory snapped away, replaced by hospital quiet. Harris gripped the bed sheet. The truth wasn't just hidden, it had been rewritten. Every crime, every file, crafted to protect one name. ColeTech's. Later, Harris walked through the dim corridor of the hospital, every footstep echoing like a question. Chief Reynolds waited at the end, arms crossed. "You should be resting," he said. "I've done enough resting," Harris replied. "I've done enough resting," Harris replied. The chief's eyes softened with guilt. "You were never supposed to see what's underneath." Harris stepped closer. "Then tell me." A pause long enough to hurt. "ColeTech's funding half this department," Reynolds whispered. "They choose who gets justice." The air turned heavy. Harris clenched his fists, heart pounding slow but fierce. "And Laura." The chief looked away. "She was supposed to disappear after you did." Harris stared through him, not past him. The walls seemed to close in, each shadow hiding another truth. "Then it's already too late," he said, voice cracking. The truth had cost them both their souls. Harris found Ethan Cole in the company's underground archive, walls of locked servers humming low like restrained thunder. "You've caused quite a stir," Ethan said calmly, standing beside a glass case filled with hard drives. "You kill people to protect data," Harris said. "No," Ethan replied, smiling faintly. "I kill to protect order." The hum deepened. "People want truth, but truth collapses things. Lies keep the machine alive." Harris stepped forward. "You're not saving the world. You're owning it." Ethan looked almost proud. "You think justice exists outside ownership?" Their voices barely rose, yet the space felt deafening. Harris's gaze hardened. "You built your empire on graves." Ethan nodded slowly. "And you helped bury them, detective. You just didn't know it." The words struck like a knife. The silence after was absolute. Outside, dawn broke over the river, painting the sky silver. Harris stood alone on the bridge, wind pulling at his coat. The city stretched below, alive and unknowing. The truth weighed on him like gravity. Every lie connected, every death purchased. "So this was the truth all along," he said quietly. His reflection in the water seemed older, hollow but unbroken. He pulled out the cracked badge, held it once more, then let it fall into the current. Ripples spread, small but endless. He understood now. Justice wasn't something to find, but something to become. His breath fogged in the cold air. Somewhere behind him, distant sirens wailed. He turned toward the sound, face calm for the first time. He wasn't done. He was just starting to fight on different terms. The rain returned, heavier than before, drumming like war drums on steel. Detective Michael Harris moved through ColeTech's deserted parking garage, gun drawn. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, humming like nervous breath. Every sound echoed too long. His shoes splashed through shallow puddles, and for a moment only his heartbeat guided him. The elevator doors stood open, a faint trail of muddy prints leading inside. "He's here," Harris whispered. The air smelled of oil and electricity. He adjusted his grip, hand trembling, but his eyes steady. Somewhere above, a door slammed. The silence afterward was unnatural, coiled, waiting. Then, footsteps, slow, deliberate, confident. Ethan Cole's voice echoed faintly through the vents. "You came alone." Harris took one step forward, gun raised. "I'm not the one who should be afraid," he said. The hum cut out. Total dark. The generator kicked in with a groan, bathing the floor in cold blue light. Ethan Cole stood at the far end, calm as a priest before confession. "You can't kill what's already built into the system," he said. Harris advanced, gun steady. "You built that system on graves," Ethan chuckled. "Graves are the foundation of progress." The sound of their words echoed through metal pillars. Harris fired once. Glass shattered near Ethan's head. "You don't get to define justice," Harris said, voice shaking. "Neither do you?" Ethan replied, lunging to grab a dropped steel pipe. The clash was brutal, metal against skin, echoing through the structure. "You were my best variable," Ethan hissed. Harris struck back. "Then you underestimated the equation." Sparks flew as a wire snapped above them. Fire and shadow collided mid-swing. The fight spilled into the stairwell. Harris stumbled, landing hard against concrete steps. From above, a shadow moved. Laura. Her voice trembled. "Michael, stop!" He froze. "You're working with him," he said, breath ragged. She shook her head, tears cutting through soot on her face. "He has my brother. Please." Ethan's smirk bled arrogance. Touching reunion, Laura turned the gun toward Ethan, hands shaking. "It ends now." A shot rang. "Not hers," she gasped, falling forward into Harris' arms. "No," he shouted, pressing his hand to her wound. "I tried to make it right," she whispered, her eyes unfocused. Silence swelled around them, cruel and absolute. Harris' face tightened. The loss wasn't just hers. It was every truth buried, every name erased. He stood slowly, the pain carving resolve into his expression. Something inside Harris broke free. He rose, slow but steady, blood on his hands and vengeance in his eyes. "You think control makes you immortal," he said. Ethan backed toward the catwalk, gun raised. "Control is survival," Ethan answered. Rain poured through a cracked skylight, mixing with the sparks from shattered cables. "No," Harris said, stepping closer. "It's fear." They moved in circles. Predator and prey blurred. Harris dropped his gun, choosing fists. "You killed her," he growled. Ethan fired. Empty click. Harris lunged, tackling him into the railing. "You can't stop it," Ethan gasped. "It's bigger than you." Harris slammed him against the edge. "Then let it fall with you." A final push. Ethan slipped, falling into the fire below. The sound was swallowed by thunder. Harris stood, rain washing blood and smoke away. The storm faded into silence. Smoke rose through the open skylight, curling into dawn. Harris stood alone on the catwalk, breathing hard. The city's hum distant but alive. The flames below dimmed to embers. Laura's voice echoed faintly in memory. "Make it right." He wiped blood from his face, eyes distant but calm. Somewhere, alarms wailed, yet he didn't move. He dropped Ethan's gun into the fire. watching it melt into nothing. The world felt quieter, not better, but honest. "It's over," he whispered, though he knew it wasn't. The truth never ended, it only changed hands. As the first light cut through the smoke, he walked toward it, limping, unbroken, reborn. Each step sounded final, yet full of something new. Hope, maybe, or something colder, stronger, still alive. Smoke lingered over the wreckage of the ColeTech facility, curling into the morning air like ghosts refusing to leave. Detective Michael Harris stood in the rain-soaked silence, eyes on the horizon. The fires had burned out, leaving blackened steel and ash. Sirens echoed faintly from far away, but none drew closer. The air smelled of metal, rain, and memory. He wiped a smear of soot from his cheek, the motion slow, deliberate. His trench coat clung to him, heavy with water and blood. Around him the world had stopped moving. Every breath came with the weight of names lost. "Laura," he murmured, voice cracking. For the first time, it wasn't anger he felt. It was absence. He closed his eyes and listened to the city's heartbeat, steady, alive, and utterly indifferent. Hours later, Harris sat alone in the precinct's evidence room. The walls smelled of dust and memory. He placed Laura's recovered badge beside his own, cracked and tarnished. The overhead bulb buzzed quietly. He thought of her voice, the way she said, "We always are being watched." His fingers brushed the edge of the note she left. Every sound, the creak of the chair, the hum of the light, felt amplified in the emptiness. "You tried to fix it," he whispered. "You didn't fail." A soft breeze slipped through a broken vent, scattering a few papers onto the floor. The files that once chained him now seemed meaningless. Truth had been uncovered, but at a cost that felt too human to celebrate. He realized justice didn't heal. It only revealed the wound beneath. He closed his eyes and saw Laura again, not bleeding, not broken, but standing at the river where they once talked about endings. The wind in her hair, the faint smile she wore when she wasn't pretending to be strong. "You made it right," her voice whispered through memory. He opened his eyes slowly, the echo still there. For a moment he could almost feel her beside him, invisible but real. His chest tightened, not in pain but in peace. "I hope you found it," he said softly. "The freedom you were fighting for." The city lights flickered outside, reflecting on the glass like stars over water. Her presence faded with them, leaving quiet warmth behind. Time didn't heal. It taught him how to remember without breaking. Days later, Harris returned to the old diner. The neon sign still flickered. The same hum, the same booth. Chief Reynolds was gone now, retired, vanished, or silenced. On the counter sat an envelope addressed in the chief's handwriting. Inside, one line: "Justice isn't clean, but someone has to hold it." Harris folded it slowly, a faint smile touching his lips. "You old fool," he said under his breath. He glanced at the window, watching rain begin again. The world didn't look different, but he did. He felt the lesson settle in. Justice wasn't about winning. It was about not turning away. The diner clock ticked loudly in the empty room. He paid for a black coffee, left a tip, and walked out into the storm with steadier steps than before. At sunset, Harris stood at Laura's grave overlooking the river. Wind brushed through the trees, carrying the faint scent of rain and rust. The city hummed below, its noise distant and small. He placed a single white flower on the stone, tracing her name with his fingers. "You were right," he whispered. "The truth never dies. It just hides until someone's brave enough to look." The river shimmered gold under fading light, reflecting everything lost and everything left. He looked up, breathing in the stillness. The pain hadn't left, but it had changed shape, becoming something he could live with. He turned and walked away, leaving the flower swaying gently in the breeze. The sun slipped behind clouds, and for once it felt like peace. The city was quiet for the first time in weeks. Rainwater glistened on the empty streets, neon lights flickering like tired eyes. Detective Michael Harris stood beneath the same street lamp where it all began. The storm had passed, but its echo lingered. He watched smoke rise from distant rooftops, fading into pale morning. No sirens, no shouts, just the sound of dripping water and wind through broken glass. His breath clouded the cold air. "We'll all lose something," he whispered. His reflection in the puddle looked back, older, distant. The silence pressed against his ears until even his heartbeat felt too loud. Somewhere, a newspaper page fluttered across the asphalt, headline unreadable. He looked up at the gray dawn and asked quietly, was it worth it? The world offered no answer, only light. By afternoon, Harris walked along the riverside path, hands deep in his coat pockets. The clouds broke apart, revealing a narrow band of sunlight cutting across the water. He stopped where Laura's badge had been found. "You'd have liked this," he murmured. Wind stirred the leaves, scattering them across the current. His hand reached into his pocket, pulling out a flash drive, Ethan's final archive. He turned it in his palm, then dropped it into the river. The water swallowed it without sound. "Let it rest," he said. The moment felt smaller than he expected, and yet final. The reflection of the city trembled with ripples, as if the world itself exhaled. He took a slow breath and began walking again, each step lighter than the last. The past drifted downstream with the current. That night, Harris returned to his apartment. The lights flickered once before settling. A small envelope sat on the table, unmarked. He opened it carefully. Inside was an old cassette labeled "For M." He placed it in the recorder. Laura's voice filled the room. Soft, steady, familiar. "If you're hearing this, I guess I didn't make it," she said. "Don't carry it too long, Michael. The truth doesn't belong to anyone. It just waits." He closed his eyes, letting her voice wrap around him like a memory he didn't want to end. The tape clicked off, leaving silence heavy and sacred. He whispered, "I won't forget." Outside, rain began again, gentle, forgiving. The city, too, seemed to listen. Her words lingered. "The truth just waits." Weeks later, life began again. New faces moved through the precinct. Fresh headlines filled the morning papers. The world didn't stop. It never did. Harris walked through the hallway, his badge now polished, the cracks sealed but not erased. Officers nodded as he passed, unaware of the ghosts that walked beside him. The walls smelled of coffee and routine again. Outside, sunlight pooled over the steps, drying yesterday's rain. A rookie stopped him. "You really think the city's safer now?" Harris paused, smiled faintly. "No," he said, "but it's awake." The rookie nodded, unsure what that meant. As Harris stepped into daylight, his shadow stretched long across the pavement. The past no longer followed. It simply stood beside him, quiet, eternal. At dusk, Harris stood once more on the bridge. The city glowed behind him, lights trembling on the river's surface. He leaned on the railing, wind in his coat. His reflection shimmered beside the fading sun. He didn't speak for a long time. Then softly, "Truth must never be owned." His voice carried just enough to be taken by the wind. The water below caught the last glint of daylight before folding into shadow. The skyline pulsed with life, distant and unaware. Harris turned and walked away, his silhouette dissolving into the soft amber haze. The river moved endlessly forward, carrying pieces of everything that had been lost, and everything still waiting to be found.